The Second Curve, written and read by Charles Handy. To my grandchildren, Leo, Sam, Nefeli, Scarlett, who will have to live and work in the world I am envisaging. Introduction. Why did I write this book? Who would I like to read it? "Sign here, please," the man said, "and put the date. But be sure you write the year in full. We can get confused between the centuries here." He was the clerk of works at Windsor Castle, and had just handed me an ancient key that went with my new job. I smiled at what I thought was a joke, but when I looked up, he was obviously serious. I should have been warned. I was there to be warden, an appropriately Trollopian title, I later felt, of a study and conference centre, focusing on the ethical and value issues that would face individuals and society in the future. I was fascinated by the history of the castle. The house that we were given to live in had been built for the young Henry III in 1216. The whole place reeked of history. I had hoped to create a nest of creative thinking in this treasury of the past, but I soon realized that history and tradition can be a prison as well as a thing to be treasured. I discovered that if something has to be done that way for centuries, it needs a looming disaster to allow any change from the status quo. There is some sense in that, but it means that progress is slow, often a series of unplanned responses to emergencies, rather than a planned pursuit of a vision. It was frustrating for this new arrival, who wanted to build on that history but felt stymied by the guardians of tradition. Having left Windsor, I realized that much of life, even outside the castle, was governed by the same principle of, if it works, don't fix it. Exhortations that it won't work like that much longer, or could work better, fall on deaf ears. The status quo, people kept telling me, has to be better than the unknown. If there has to be change, it should be better than yesterday, not different. But society is not working as it should. Living is getting harder, not easier, for most. Inequality is growing. Wealth is not trickling down as it used to do, nor is it trickling up, as in theory it should do, because consumers are ensnared in debt, spending too much on their houses, with too little left over to fuel the economy with their spending. Too many of the customs, practices, and institutions of society were designed for a time that is past. The Internet and its corollaries are revolutionizing much of our lives, but taking the guts out of many of our institutions as they do so. The Western world seems to have gone into retirement mode, settling for a cautious life after the financial scares of the last decade, hoping that the comfortable life we had become used to will soon return, if we only keep our nerve. The reality, however, is that we can neither bring back the past nor prolong the present indefinitely. When the world changes around us, we have to change as well. Or as Tancredi famously told his uncle the prince in Lampedusa's novel The Leopard, for things to remain the same, things will have to change. Unfortunately, bold thinking has become suspect, or too risky, among those supposedly responsible for our future. Governments tweak and twist and adapt, but are more concerned to stay in power than to conjure up new visions and new possibilities. This is happening at a time when many of our assumptions about how our lives work are being turned upside down by new technologies and new values. Forget for a moment the big dramas of international affairs. It is our daily lives that are going to change the most. This book is dedicated to my young grandchildren, who will grow into a world very different from the one that I encountered, but who are being prepared for it as if nothing will be very different from the world that I knew, that there will be jobs for them if they put their heads down and pass their exams. Jobs and exams not that different from the ones I encountered 60 or more years ago. That is a recipe for disappointment and disillusion. For one thing, half
Sample complete. Ready to continue?